Welcome back to Crypto Simulation Theory. I'm the Gaussian Snake. I want to talk to you today about why I feel bullish on Bitcoin that a breakout may be imminent soon. Obviously, there's a narrative about rate cuts. And if you've seen my other videos, you'll also notice that there is a death cross pattern that's happened several times in Bitcoin's history, not often, that has resulted in a pretty big run up. Before I begin, though, I want to indicate that I am on the weekly time frame and I am going to go to the 2 week time frame with Bitcoin. It's also not financial advice. You should always do your own research. So, just looking at the chart, I drew two areas that I want you to pay close attention to. I have a brand new red zone that runs between $25 and $32,000, and I also have a green zone which runs between $90,000 and $110,000. More on those in a second. But what I want to focus on is what the most likely path is for Bitcoin now that we've pretty much established this bullish. I mean, this is not quite a bullish hammer candle. It's not, but it is a bullish candle nonetheless. There's a lot of buying pressure that happened here at 49,000, and we are seeing somewhat of a reversal emerge. I'm going to turn on some whole moving averages just to kind of show you some perspective. This is the 50 and 100. I've spoken about this before. This is the death cross of the 50 and the 100 occurred a few days ago, and this does typically lead to a rally, some kind of rally. We usually rally into or around this death cross. I would argue that that rally could have started. We're not sure yet if it has yet, but that's one of the things that I do look at as far as that goes. Um, so there are some other things that I wanted to show you with indicators. So another thing I wanted to look at are the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Bands. These are Bollinger Bands, just like any other Bollinger Band, are just constructed slightly differently. We haven't seen a squeeze like this in the Bollinger Bands since 2023, since this region here. Like, we haven't had this much consolidation. Like, we, back in 2023, consolidated from March until around October. And look at what we're doing now. We consolidated from March until around August. And there's no guarantee that we're going to pop off right now or anything like that. But one thing that you will notice is that we have been staying pretty well in the middle of the Bollinger Bands. We did dip in July, but we haven't really, we did kind of like make our way out of it, but we were actually getting back above the median line of the Bollinger Band, which is typically a pretty bullish sign, especially if we can maintain that. And also notice that we have a giant cup here with a handle. So the cup and handle formation does tend to be quite bullish. So we have to also pay attention to that as well. Another thing that I wanted to show you too is the Gunnar EMA. We're going to turn off the Bollinger Bands so we can see this a little bit better. And you'll see that the Gunnar EMA was really close to making a bearish cross. And this is something that happened in September and August and September of last year. But with this upward price movement, it just didn't happen. Now, it doesn't mean it won't happen, but it certainly is reducing the risk of it happening, especially if this upward momentum continues, which I think is quite likely. Something else to pay attention to, again, on the weekly, if we go to the Snabble RSI and also pull up, I'm going to shut this off temporarily, and also pull up the MACD, just regular MACD, moving average convergence divergence. And what you'll notice is that we are starting to see some light pink creep in. We've had quite a bit of red. Our first bearish divergence occurred in April, and it's been nothing but red since. And you can see we're making a go at another cross, and that would actually allow us to put in a higher low on the signal line, as well as the 26 minus 12 MACD line, and that could turn this bullish. And if we see this light pink pattern continue, and the Snabble RSI hit some pretty low levels that it hasn't hit in a while. So, we hit a level of 20 in July. The last time we hit a level of 20, we bounced. So you can see we did bounce here, and we have formed an inverse head and shoulders pattern. We're above the moving average line of the Snabble RSI. So upside is quite likely here. And if I could show you what I just closed when I first opened this up, that is the reverse Chandy momentum oscillator. And you can see here, we've drawn quite a bit of red on the weekly time frame. In fact, even this indicator has even gotten below the zero line, putting in but we put in a higher low. So that, if you look here, they go all the way back to like June of 2022. We put in a really low at like negative 92. And then if you go to September of 2023, we put in a slightly higher low. And if you go now to July of 2024, we put in a slightly higher low. Full trend, right? Like if I were to draw a trend line, this is, bullish that we're putting in these higher lows. And so what I kind of anticipate is, and also with the signal line, the last time the signal line just barely crossed below the zero line, and now it's getting close to the zero line. This is a really great place for a bounce to maintain the structure of higher lows that is typical of an emerging bull market. So, and then towards the middle to the end of the bull market, you can actually see the start to reverse course, but we'll worry about that when we get there. That was just something else I wanted to point out. Um, as far as like anything to be a little bit concerned about, because we do have to also mention Gaussian channel right here. Now in the weekly time frame, the good news is we tap this channel, which is pretty typical that you get these pullbacks to the channel in the early stages of a bull market. We tapped it on the week of August 5th, but that's all it was a tap. And now there is something that does concern me a little bit about the channel, but this is a weekly channel, so this thing can wobble around quite a bit, is that we did flip concave down and widen. So if we were to see more downward pressure happen right now, it would probably flip the Gaussian channel on the weekly red, which I don't think has ever happened in a bull market. Never has happened. You can see it almost happen here in 2019 to 2020. We did flip widen and almost flip red, but money printing took us out of that trap. So it is kind of barely setting up to look just a little bit bearish on the Gaussian channel, but you also have to keep in mind that the Gaussian channel is a lagging indicator and it's encapsulating all this data here, which is a pretty bullish looking flag. So, I wouldn't put too much stock into the weekly Gaussian channel at this time. I'm still thinking breakout is more imminent than anything else. What I would like to also look at is let's draw some fibs and kind of see where we're at with regards to the fibs and the VRVP. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and connect those together. And you can see that Bitcoin has actually been really doing a great job holding the 886 fib. And it's had, one, two, no, three. I mean, there's just been all these touch points at the 886 and it just hasn't broken through. So, but you could also say the same with the one fib. Like with the one fib, we really haven't been able to break through that either. So, it's kind of a neutral looking pattern in here as far as that goes. The VRVP would show that we're in a region where there really is a fair amount of support that's actually building out above the 886. If we get below, when we start to get below like 62K, that's where we're running into a little bit of trouble because support starts to drop off. And you can see there's virtually no support from the 786 to the 886, which is like, $50,000 to $58,000. And you don't really hit your next area of major support until about $42,000. I do think that if my red zone down here is way too aggressive, which this is, by the way, I'm going to explain kind of like what my theory is, but like I think at some point we will test this, whether it's in a red waterfall hard landing event by the S&P or a future bear market. I do think this region is going to get tested, but I'll tell you my theory later about when I think it's going to happen. But I will also mention that 42K is a pretty significant area of support, and we should not rule that out. So I don't think we're heading down to 42K right now. I actually, and there are people who think we are, and we certainly could. I think we're going to be kind of building a base for a move higher. I think that's what this week is going to be about. And I think September could actually open up quite green. We have the narrative of rate cuts and the rally that usually occurs into them to certainly support that theory. All the things that have happened with the whole moving average where you've had the 50 and 100. Let me just turn off the fibs real quick. So just give me a second to do that. Right, there we go. No, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, you can see in the past we've had rallies into death crosses. We had that in 2021. We had a rally into the death cross that occurred in 2019. Okay, we have we have many instances of this going back in history, Bitcoin's history. So there were death crosses usually resulted into rallies that ended in dumps. They were pump and dumps. Okay, I have a whole video on this. I'm not going to like repeat everything in that video, but um, yeah, you can see right now the beginnings of what I presume will be another rally into another pump and dump. It's just the question is, I don't know how long it's going to take before we dump. And I think I accidentally erased my green zone. But that's okay. My green zone was between 90, and I can just draw it again. It was between 90 and 110,000. So I'll just make a green thing here and I will edit it. Easy to just fix. Okay. So here's my theory on what I think is going to potentially occur between now and next year. And this is just a theory. This is just me speculating, and it has a high probability of being wrong. And that's not really the goal here is to like, try to be right all the time. It's just this is what I think is likely to happen. So I think we are likely to have a rally at some point. It could happen now. It may take a little while to kick off, like maybe a couple weeks or something. But I think we're going to rally into rate cuts and really rally into the end of the year. And I think we're going to get somewhere. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but maybe November, December, sometime in there. I think we're going to be in this green zone somewhere between 90,000 and 100,000. I think we're going to have some difficulty with the $100,000 level. And I think that we'll start to head down. Um, and who knows where we head down? I mean, we could kind of toy around here for a little while, something like this. And I think during this time, altcoins are going to likely run. Bitcoin dominance is going to drop. And what I foresee happening then is we're going to get closer to a rate cut floor. So I think Bitcoin is going to, best case scenario, like soft landing, I think around rate cuts when they're done happening, I think Bitcoin could hit 42,000, and that could be where we bounce for the bull run to really kick off. So you do have this one potential situation that could look like this, okay, and that could mark kind of the next leg up for our bull market. The worst possible situation, which I think is like a hard landing situation, would be kind of dropping to around $32,000. I know that seems unthinkable and like, no, that's the end of the bull run, but it is technically a higher low. If you like compare back to November, December 2022, or even here in September, October, it's technically a macro higher low. And I think like this is what I'm going to refer to as a red waterfall event. So this is where rate cuts get close to a floor. And typically with the stock market, every time rate cuts have gotten close to a floor, the stock market has a flush out. This would be a pretty massive drop from 100,000 down to here. It's like a 67% drop. Actually, it's just slightly more than that. But honestly, that sounds about par for the course when it comes to rate cuts. And another place I'm kind of getting this idea from is the Bitcoin risk band. And you can see that by the time we're out here at the into next year, zero risk is probably going to be somewhere around 38,000. And typically, if you look at our last recessionary bear market, we actually got underneath the blue line. So I think it could happen again. And that's why I'm kind of using this red zone as my base case for a complete total reset in the market. A very, short bear market that you wouldn't even realize you were in until you it's pretty much done. And this is the final flush out I think that would happen with crypto. Now, um, we are going to have to watch this rally at the end of the year. If it gets really aggressive, 100 risk is at 170,000. So if we start to go up towards 140 to 170,000, then I'm going to start to believe that the bull market is over, or about to be over, and that would concern me that we're about to head into a really nasty bear market. That is something to potentially consider. So if we have a situation where we, go way up, let's say up to here, get to the top of this curve by, I don't know, end of the year, this is really not my base case, then I don't think, um, yeah, I think that would, throw us into a pretty bad situation. Now, the reason I don't think this is likely is typically bull runs start when you're at a rate cut floor. So I just really I don't think that's the most likely situation. Honestly, think something that's more likely is what I'm painting here. And like I said, in a soft landing scenario, which is possible, I think we're still going to get a correction. Like there's just no escaping it in history. It's never happened where you've escaped a correction near the end of rate cuts, but I think somewhere around 42,000 based on the volume support there is sort of a best case scenario. So I'm not putting my red zone up here because I'm not really planning on, or I should say my thesis, there's only been one soft landing in history in 1966. So I'm erring on the side of caution, seeing how bad things do look right now and thinking that sometime in March or April of next year, we could see the market really collapse. But the buying pressure around 32K with low interest rates, probably around 3 to 3.5%, will be very attractive to buyers, and I think that they will start us on a nice rally from that point onward. And it's a confusing situation because Bitcoin's really never been in this exact situation before. 2020 was the closest we got, but that was quick and over with. I don't think that this bleed will be quick and over with the way it was in 2020. I mean, it's also possible, like, that we don't just bounce straight out of this. We could have a slower grind, right? It could be much slower, but longer. We could have a longer bull market. Maybe that even extends into 2026. So there are some scenarios that I am considering here, and of course, it wouldn't be straight up. There'd be pullbacks along the way. There are some other scenarios I'm considering here, like this one, but it's just too early to project that far out. Like to make a prediction over a year from now is ridiculous. So I'm thinking the formation of some like maybe head and shoulders like pattern that could take us down for a little while as the effects of rate cuts start to like, and the effects of sorry the rate hikes from several years of aggressive rate hike cycles, and maybe unemployment goes up in quarter one and stuff. And I think quarter one of 2025 is probably not going to be that great for Bitcoin. But it's never just a straight trip down. That did have even in 2019, 2020 didn't quite happen like that. So yeah, it's just something to consider. This is a prediction I'm making, and we'll see if it ends up being right or if I'm like way off the mark. Um, the other thing I wanted to look at was the 2 week, because on the 1 week, we did mention the Gaussian channel kind of not looking so hot. And so you want to do is just kind of zoom out a little bit, and you can see the Gaussian channel on the 2 week looks strong as heck. Like it's just curling up and it's ready to rip. Um, and you can see with the 2 week Gaussian, it rarely goes red. Like it only went red twice in Bitcoin's history. Once here in 2016, and once again, I believe it was in 2022 to 2023. 2020. Wow, well, we even extended into 2024, right? And only two times, separated by 8 years. I think it will go red more often in Bitcoin's future, Bitcoin's future because of diminishing returns. But this looks like a beautiful cup and handle pattern ready to break to the upside. I just can't ignore that. We haven't even come down to test this Gaussian channel yet. And I think that test could occur. Some people are thinking it's going to occur now. But again, I think the most likely scenario, and I'm oversimplifying this, okay, I'm not doing pullbacks and stuff. But I think like, we go up here, maybe top in December 2024. And if we get a hard landing, you know, the bottom part of the Gaussian channel, you can almost like imagine it kind of if you were to draw and extend it out, maybe it would be somewhere near here. So not unthinkable for it to do that and slice through it like it did in 2020, fatten it out a little bit. So yeah, that's like something that could happen. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the reverse Chandy momentum oscillator on the 2 week. And this is one I've been, watching a lot, watching very closely. And you can see that um, we had this nasty head and shoulders set up on the reverse chandy. Now, and whenever we've hit levels above 85 and gotten to the top, we've always printed a fair amount of red. And what we're seeing right now, as of this video, is something different than what I saw earlier today. So, man, the market can change on a dime. So I'm actually going to zoom in on this. I just made a horizontal line, which I do want to do, but I want to zoom in first. So, it this is on a 2 week, so this is definitely subject to change. Earlier we had a little kink, but I'm imagining Bitcoin's getting a little bit of a pullback right now. And on Monday, what is the Bitcoin price right now? For some reason, I can't see exactly what it is. Oh, there it is. It's about 63. So yeah, we've had a little bit of a pullback in Bitcoin price. So it looks like we are at best printing a double bottom here. Earlier there was like a little kink in this. So you can see the red signal line continues to be quite red, or the signal line continues to be quite red. Um, if Bitcoin does pump into rate cuts and it gets to 100,000, it's not that big of a move in terms of ROI, which this momentum oscillator is kind of based off of. So, like in terms of ROI, going from like 63, 64,000 to 100,000 is not even a 2x. So, I still think, part of me thinks we could still get the signal line to be red for a little while longer. Um, I mean, this if this puts in a lower low this week, that is definitely going to be a little alarming. But this is a 2 week indicator, so um, this could move and change directions a lot. It is a little concerning that it has gone below the zero line. Um, so this is something we've got to watch really closely. Because I was kind of imagining maybe we get a rally back up. You could even potentially flip it green for a little while in the situation I was describing and print like this like head and shoulders pattern that just ends up with a massive drop. Hard to say what's going to happen, but if you look at the history of the reverse Chandy, like here was December 2020 all the way to March 2021. We dropped down to just a little lower than where we are now and had a bounce. This level, we had a nice bounce in September. Um, so you go back to 2019, December 2019 and March of 2020, we got lower than where we are now. So that is something to consider. I also noticed that the slope has been so steep here. Like this is really, really steep. It's steep almost like 2021, but even steeper, right? So that is a little bit concerning. You go back to 2017, I mean, this was the bear market bottom. We hope not to go that low. So to find a time when it was as high as it was getting near 100, you have to go to 2013. But we didn't look at. We only made it down to like around here in 2020. I'm sorry, in 2013 before coming back up for air. So it's bear market bottoms really, like near bear market bottoms. So you're getting these super low levels. Like here's 2018. You know, 2020. This was not a bear market. This was recessionary. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of like what's going to happen. Are we gonna like go down even lower and get close to our bear market levels? I don't think so. I think we are very very close to a bounce. I mean, this looks horrible. This is really really horrible. And it's bad that we're down here at this level again. I was hoping for like a higher low, but it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen here. So this is like, like for a baseball analogy, it's like the bottom of the ninth, hey, what's going to happen? I still think an upside move is likely. I do. If we go to the Snabble RSI, which is a very similar indicator again to what we're looking at here, okay, you can see that we are still technically above the 50 level, right? And, yeah, we did get up into this very high region in February and March, and we're now super low again. And this happened in 2019 as well. Like 2019, we got pretty high. May of 2019, June of 2019. I tried to get back above the signal line, couldn't do it, or above the average line. And we're at a pretty low level. I mean, but even in 2019, we did have another rally, right? So Is this our rally, the one that we just had? Is it over? I sure hope not. Like I was talking about a rally into rate cuts. You know, is this our rally? I really hope not. We are quite a ways away from the signal line, so we're going to need a pretty big move to reverse course here. And my base case is that's exactly what happens. It's not unprecedented to bounce around these levels like 40 to 50. You can see we had a bounce in 2023, and what I'm seeing here is like a macro bullish divergence that I'm hoping can hold, right? So it's kind of hard to know exactly how to draw the trend line, but you can kind of see, you know, there's like a macro bullish divergence that we're just trying to hold on to. And I don't know what's going to happen next, but you know, earlier today, this looks a lot more bullish than it does now. It's amazing what the movement of a couple $1,000s can do. So that's a danger of looking at like the 2 week, right? Um, so I mean, it may move down a little bit this week. Maybe Bitcoin gets a little bit of a pullback this week at the end of August and doesn't have the best close, and then I think in September it's gonna go off towards rate cuts. I still think this pump in the rate cuts is the most likely thing. I don't know what's gonna happen after rate cuts because I mean typically there's a dump, but it depends on the pace of the rate cuts and how aggressive the Fed is. So a little hard to predict that. So yeah, I mean there's some areas of concern here for sure. Like you can see what happened in 2019. We came all the way back down and it took us a while to get back up again. So looks like we're actually doing something quite similar. And March 2020 was pretty frightening. I do think we'll see another one of these drops. I do. But I was kind of thinking more like into next year. Maybe quarter one of next year is when we're likely to see a pretty big pullback. So, like, if I had to draw out a path, maybe we come down a little bit more. I don't know exactly when the next 2 week period ends, but let's just say like around somewhere around here, and then maybe not even that far out, but then maybe we try to come back up. And um, we've been putting in lower highs and lower lows. It's not good. It's not a good pattern. So the question is, can we break this pattern into the end of the year? And can we put in something, here, November? I don't know. I really don't know. Um, you can draw whatever you want on these things. There's typically quite a bit of space between getting up here in above the red. This was like July of 2019. Took us a year to get back into the red um, from July when we first dropped. This was March of 2024. You know, pattern doesn't have to play out exactly the same way as it did in the past. So this is a big unknown, looking questionable right now. Um, yeah. So on the 2 week earlier today, man, it looked great. And now I'm looking at it and it's looking kind of uncertain. One thing I will say that is playing in the favor of the Bulls are these green histogram bars. Like the Bulls are clearly still in control. Okay? They've been in control since December of 2023, August 2024. If we go back to 2019, the Bulls were never in control. So that's something that's different. Okay. So the Bulls were in control, been in control since December of 2023. But if you go back to the 2019, 2020 era, the Bulls didn't even start to become in control until July, and didn't really like gain major control until September. Okay, and then they were in control for quite some time. Um, yeah, I mean, one thing that definitely raises some eyebrows is that the Bulls have been in control for quite a while, and it's kind of like, well, when are the Bears going to take over? I think quarter one of 2025, or just sometime after rate cuts, without being too deterministic. I'm not clairvoyant. I don't know what's going to happen. I just have a hard time believing that all of quarter four is going to be red after we just had 6 months of nothing but chop. Indicators have reset, and I'm seeing the opportunity for price movement higher in like the indicators that I've shown you, especially on the weekly time frame. So this still looks bullish, right? Until proven otherwise. The one thing I am noticing here on the bull bear power trend is that we have a series of kind of, lower highs and lower lows. So that generally doesn't end well, as you can see, looking back past history. In 2013, we got another rally back up, but we'll have to see like if this has legs to it, and are we going to come back down and then go back up, and are we going to chop around here a little bit longer? I mean, who knows, right? But for now, it does look good. So we can kind of say, okay, bull bear power trend looks good. Um, Something else that I think I forgot to put on here, but I want to put on that is bullish that I did notice. I was happy to see this. So while we did get underneath the 100-week whole moving average, which is in blue, this is a 2-week time frame, so this is going to be the 100-week. We did actually hold support at the um, 200-week. Okay, so we held support at the 200-week. Now these averages are starting to turn down, which is generally not something you want to see, but that's a result of a lot of downward movement for the 200-week. It includes all this downward movement. These are still lagging averages. Um, we had a golden cross back in July of 2023, and that golden cross was formed off of this rally. Usually, with a golden cross, you do kind of dump back to it and test it, which is exactly what we did in late 2023. And we haven't had a death cross since February of 2022. So it's been a really long time since we've had a death cross. We can see what happened in 2020 is you got a death cross in September of 2018, golden cross in September of 2019, and it was actually on that golden cross that Bitcoin really dumped hard. Now this is not the 50 and 100, right? So these things move a lot slower. You got a death cross and you dumped along with that death cross. You got a golden cross resulting from all this upward movement. And then we almost had another death cross because of COVID drop, but it didn't happen until much, much later. So these averages don't look like they're in any kind of imminent danger of forming a death cross. They're so far apart. So that is definitely a point for the bulls. And I just can't get past this Gaussian channel and how bullish it looks. Like this 2-week Gaussian channel looks extremely bullish. So like I think it would be foolish to just, say that a downtrend can't happen here. It's just that the odds are more bullish than not. You can see sell pressure is really eased off a lot. Like if you just look at it on like a longer term time frame, and you're just looking at sell pressure, like the sell volume is really contracted um, ever since the middle of 2022. I mean, it's just you almost. I mean, there was a big event here. Of course, this was the FTX drop, right? So, but the general trend has been down, right? We ignore this one here. It's more or less been down. Um, Selling pressure has been down. We did have some nice buying pressure in February, but buying volume has also kind of been, down as well. So it seems that sell pressure is getting exhausted, and that we should, in parabolic SAR right now, to flip the trend bullish is just around 70K. So if we get a pump past 70K and we can hold that, we'll actually create our first bullish SAR dot in quite a while. So and that's kind of my base case for what is likely to happen here. We've just been in this crab trend with the slight downtrend for so long. It's kind of hard to imagine, falling even further at this point and still calling it a bull market. So yeah, the parabolic SAR looks good, and because of this, the confusing situation we find ourselves in, this is why I am using so many indicators. Here's the Gunnar EMA. You can see on the 2-week at a bullish cross in May of 2023, and it has remained bullish ever since. It's not even close to being bearish. In fact, we just got above the upper green band. That's bullish, especially if we can hold this. We tested the bottom band here, formed like a bottom. That looks really bullish. So there's a lot of points for the bulls. There are some areas of concern. certainly that we've seen and sort of surprised me tonight as I was going through this video because I looked at these same indicators just like, I don't know, half a day ago, yesterday. They didn't look like they look now. So, but getting a little bit more under the hood, I would say that the most likely path for Bitcoin moving forward is that maybe we crab around just a little bit more heading into the end of the month. But my base case is a breakout's coming soon, and I think the breakout's going to happen before rate cuts. I think that between now and September 18th, there will be a nice breakout for Bitcoin. That is my prediction. And after that happens, I have to see what those rate cuts look like to really decide if I need to adjust, move the goalposts a little bit. I'm not somebody to make a prediction and then constantly change it. So I'm gonna roll with these and we'll just kind of see what plays out, right? And then I can reflect on it afterwards. It'll be a valuable learning experience either way. But to me, it just seems like we're building up to something big here, and I think another upside move is likely coming. I can't tell you how long it will last for, or if we'll even make it into 2025 before we start to kind of cave off a little bit because or fall off a little bit because typically with the S&P, once rate cuts happen, that's kind of when the downtrend begins. There are a few exceptions, but by the time we hit a rate cut floor, there's almost no exceptions of the S&P pretty much heading straight into a bottom. Like it's you look through history, it's when you get near rate cut floor, things start to really go south. So I think we'll be on borrowed time, but we could still have some nice movement in the market between now and then, and it could provide a nice opportunity when we do, if we do get a red waterfall in early 2025 or even late this year is a possibility. Not really my base case, but it could present a buying opportunity. So I think the best way to navigate this kind of market is just to have cash on the side, have your Bitcoin position, and you know take advantage of any deals that come up when they do, but you don't want to get left behind by FOMO either. So if this we do take another nice leg up, um, then I wouldn't want you to have no exposure to the market, right? Again, not financial advice, me just kind of talking about what I would want to do for myself. So yeah, that's about it. This video's gone on long enough. Congratulations if you made it all the way to the 38-minute mark. But you can see this is not a really super easy to analyze. There's a lot of indicators. Most I think are saying bullish, especially like on the weekly time frame. The 2 week is a little conflicted at the moment. Um, it hasn't been all day yesterday until I made this video. So this little drop to it looks like we're going back up now, 64,000. So maybe it was just like a coincidence that the time um, I was filming that it did that. I don't know, but I think more indicators are leaning bullish than bearish. So I'm going to remain bullish, and I'm going to say that I think Bitcoin will likely breach the 90 to $110,000 price range by the end of this year. And I think that next year we will be subjected to a red waterfall event that could take place over several months. As for the cycle ending a little bit early, that is a possibility, but I don't think it's the most likely one. I'll only start to worry about that if Bitcoin goes a little too high. And this was something that I worried about a little bit back in um, back in March. So when we are getting to 73.5K, a lot of indicators were getting really overheated, but we didn't have topping indicators like the pi cycle top and things like that. So or MVRV or coin value days destroyed. None of those were basically saying we're at the top. So yeah, I still think we're fairly early in the cycle, like midway through it. To me, it was there's got to be about a year or so left of this cycle. We haven't even really hit peak mania yet. Um, but so I mean, the leg that we had in 2023 was pretty aggressive, like when you zoom out on it. But ultimately, all it did is just take us to right back where we started, pretty much 73.5K when accounted for inflation is not that different than the tops from 2021. So triple tops are another very, very rare phenomenon. I did a video on this called the lost cycle. Super rare. almost never happen. So they usually are just bull flags in disguise, and I think that's the case with Bitcoin here. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Please drop me some comments. Again, this is crypto simulation theory. I'm the Gaussian snake. Be sure to join my free Telegram group at the Snake Pit to also come discuss with me, and I think there's around 270 other people there. So it's a nice small group, and get to know everybody in there, and very professional. So look forward to coming to you with more updates soon. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye.